Ibn Ataaillah rahmatullah alayhi makes a very important point. He says, إذا قيل لك من المؤمن فقل الذي اطلع على عيب نفسه ولم ينسب أحدا من العباد إلى عيب. الله أكبر. If someone was to ask you, define what a believer, who a believer is, what is a mu'min? And he says that the definition of a believer is the one who is aware of his own faults and does not go behind anyone else's faults. This is a believer. And وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَكَ مَنِ الْمَخْذُولِ, who is the one that has been forsook by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, الَّذِي يَنْسُبْ الْعِبَادِ إِلَى الْعَيْبِ وَيُبْرِئْ نَفْسَهُ مِنْ. The person who has been forsook by Allah ta'ala is the one who pinpoints faults in others and considers himself to be free of faults. Allah. So this is something, my friends, that we need to look at. That within ourselves, do we have this quality? And there's many people who they search for faults in others and they've made this their life mission. And friends, what happens when a person, he chases after people's faults, he becomes blind to his own. And what happens when a person becomes blind to his own faults? Allahu Akbar. A person lives his life in that way where he dies without tawbah. Because he's occupied with this person's zina, this person's sharab, this person's smoking, this person this. And then he forgets his own illnesses. Allah. Just like today, I was listening to a lecture and he made a very, very important point. He said, if somebody comes and asks for your daughter's hand in marriage, the questions you'll ask is, have you got a degree? How are your finances? Do you smoke? Do you drink? And if the boy was to say that, yes, I smoke or I drink, straight away, you will say, by tashrif le aaye. Now, that same person, if you ask him, do you perform your 5 times salah? He says, no. This will not be a big issue to you. You will still consider giving him your daughter in marriage. And the Shaykh said that, Wallah, by Allah, for a person to be benamazi is a greater sin than being a sharabi. Lekin hum usko nahi dekhte. Why? Because we can maintain our izzat by him being benamazi, but we can't maintain our izzat by him being a sharabi. So unfortunately, my friends, we have mixed up our priorities. And one thing that we have noticed over the years is a person who comes new onto deen. So he lived a life of far away from Allah Ta'ala, and he lived a life of the streets, a rough life, and then he comes onto deen. Many a times he brings his own mizaj onto deen as well. Bichara, there was one youngster, very far from deen. Allah Ta'ala brought him onto deen. And mashallah, he was going in tabligh. But he had this habit inside him of picking faults. Why is your topi not? Why do you wear topi like this? Why not this? बस मिजाज बन गया. मैंने उनको समझाया 2 दफ़ा कि भाई देखें, ये ना करें. Don't have the habit of picking faults in evil. 6 माह के बाद, that same youngster who's doing gush every day for 2.5 hours, बस अभी नमाज नहीं पढ़ रहा है. Why? Because when a person looks for faults in people, उसका एक असर ये है कि Allah Ta'ala deprives him of deen. Allahu Akbar. And the Shaykh, he mentions, wow, beautiful point. He says, Wallahi ma umruka min awwali yawmin wulit. He says, I take a qasam by Allah. Your life is not the day you were born. But he says, Bal umruk min awwali yawmin araft Allah. He says, really your life began the day you recognize Allah. This is the day you were born. This is your life. This is your Umar. Allahu Akbar. شتان بين أهل السعادة وأهل الشقاوة فأهل السعادة إذا رأوا إنسانا على معصية أنكروا عليه في الظاهر ودعوا له في الباطن. He says there's a great difference between those who are connected to Allah and those who are evil by nature. Those who are connected to Allah, when they see a person commit a sin, they'll tell you off. Zaid bhai, मैं आपको देख रहा हूँ, ये चीज़ अच्छी नहीं है. But what will they do? وَدَعَوْا لَهُ فِي الْبَاطِنِ. But in private, they will make dua for you. If you are really sincere for a person, and you see him involved in a bad, your sincerity can be shown if you are making dua for him. If you are not making dua for him, you are not sincere in Islah. One of the main benefits of being bad to a sheikh is the sheikh will make dua for you. Because Islah is not in the hands of the sheikh. The sheikh is only a sabab. Whereas the sheikh will continue to make dua for you, for your Islah. And then he says, وَأَهْلُ الشَّقَاوَةِ يُنْكِرُونَ عَلَيْهِ تَشَفِّيًا فِيهِ. And then he says that the أهل الشقاوة, the people who are evil by nature, بالعكس إذا رأوا إنسانا على معصية أغلقوا عليه الباب وفضوحوا فيها. That when a person whose nature is bad, when they see you doing something wrong, they will expose you in public. They will expose you in public. But they will not make any dua for you in private. Allah Akbar. After I came back from my chilla 10 years ago, so our tarteeb was a bit wrong. We were trying to go home, and we were young, 16, and trying to go home, and there was no cars available. So I was blaming my friend कि आपका कसूर है, आपने तरतीब नहीं बनाई. तो Shamsi Saab, Hafidahullah, he overheard the conversation, and he said, भाई मसला ये है कि we are always looking to blame others, but the haqiqat is that the musibat and the problems of the ummah is my fault. The suffering of the ummah is because of my sins. And this is the mizaj of Akabir. That they would always say that the suffering the ummah is facing today is because of my guna. If I was to change my life, I have umeed in Allah, that Allah Ta'ala will lift the problems in the ummah. The Quran says, وَمَا أَصَابَكَ مِن مُصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ. Whatever musibat befalls the ummah is because of your sins. It's because of our sins Allah Ta'ala sends a faisla of adab upon the ummah. So it's because of my sins that people around the world are suffering. And this is the understanding we need to have. Because of my guna, this is happening. Friends, when we have this understanding, then there will be no chance for us to point fingers at anybody else. Allah. And then he says, how do you recognize the aql of somebody? How do you recognize anyone's intelligence? He says, all you have to do is mention a third person in front of him. And if he starts mentioning bad things about him, then this person is evil. And this person has no aql in him. But if you mention a third person to him, and he mentions praise of him, कि माशाल्लाह बहुत अच्छा बंदा है, then know that this person has aql in him. This is the bunyad of aqlaniyya. And ulama mentioned that if Zayd and Abdullah are talking, and Zayd mentions something bad to Abdullah about Bakr, then Amr, Abdullah, he should know that Zayd has mentioned something bad to me about Bakr. Tomorrow he is going to mention something bad about me to Bakr. If somebody is willing to do ghibat about somebody to you, then they are more than willing to do ghibat about you to somebody else. But a person who is principled and does not do ghibat about anybody, then he is not going to do ghibat about you to somebody else. But friends, the khulasa of today's sabak and today's lesson is that we should not search for people's faults. Because if we make a habit of searching for faults of people, then our whole life will be spent in this, and we will not get the tawfiq to do tawbah. And the thing is that we should hide people's sins. So you see a person smoking, you see a person doing something wrong, we turn a blind eye. Allahu Akbar. When I was in Darul, ek misal mein de दूं, there was a student, and he used to talk to his soon-to-be wife, which is haram. So some students complained to my Sheikh, Hazrat Mawlana Yousaf Baig D.B, Hafidahullah, that Hazrat, he's in madrasa and he's talking to his soon-to-be wife, gapshap laga raha hai, video call laga raha hai. So Hazrat told them off. Hazrat said, आप ये गुनाह देख रहे हैं, you are seeing this sin of his, लेकिन ये नहीं देख रहे हैं कि हर हफ्ता ये पूरा कुरान सुनाता है. That every week he finishes one Quran. ये नहीं देख रहे हैं. तो बहुत बड़ा सबक मुझे मिला. That sometimes we see one fault of an individual, लेकिन जो तमाम तर खैर उनसे निकल रहा है वो नहीं देख रहे. So friends, the khulasa today, and I finish on this, make this our habit, that we focus on our own faults. And we look at the good in everybody else. Even if we see a mistake, turn a blind eye. If it's in our will and our power to make it correct, to correct it, then we correct it in a nice way. But other than that, we turn a blind eye. And this is the mizaj of Shariat. Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq to keep our eyesight on our own faults. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar.